like salad. Do you like salad?
Welcome to Canadian Salad,
a fun, factual, and friendly podcast about culture and integration in Canada.
I'm one of your hosts. I'm Hostion Ho from China, currently living in unceded territory of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations.
And I'm Andrea McCauley, an immigrant from the United States, broadcasting you from the unceded traditional territory of the Lekwungen people, the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations.
And you're listening to Canadian Salad.
Hey everyone, welcome back.
Welcome back to another episode.
Thank you for joining us, Canadian Salad Podcast. New listeners, thank you, Mamois, and old listeners, obviously, thank you so much.
Welcome back, always.
Yes.
And today
we have with us Muraly Srinarayanthas.
Yeah, great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. I don't know if you remember, Muraly, I met you about a year and a half ago at the Immigration Summit. It was hosted by the Conference Board of Canada.
Yes.
And you were promoting your book, Between Borders, Beyond Boundaries. And I did a little shameless plug. I gave you a little postcard and I was like,
yes, I remember.
Hi. Yeah. You do? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I loved everything that you had to say. And definitely Between Borders, Beyond Boundaries is a book that is in my library to read. But we're very, very thankful to have you on the podcast. So those of you who do not know, Muraly is, correct? Yeah? Okay. Co-founder of 369 Global. He's a third culture kid, which if those of you who don't know what third culture kids are, please check out season 2, episode 2, which is Canada's Global Citizens, Third Cultural Kids. We did a whole episode on it. And we actually did a plug for your magazine, 3, which I'm a subscriber. I'm a huge fan, as you can see. But Muraly, he's also a father, a marathon runner, and is a Forbes published author, which I alluded to earlier, Between Borders and Beyond Boundaries. He also is a leader of Computech College, which since 2014, from what I understand, has grown exponentially, earning recognition as one of Canada's fastest growing companies in 2024. But he also is a global citizen in the fact that he leads initiatives in healthcare and cybersecurity across Kenya, India, the UAE, and here in Canada. Big bio for a great person, but thank you so much, Muraly, for coming on the show. Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I am very grateful that we met at the conference board. You have the book and also a subscriber to the magazine. So, no, very excited to get into our conversation.
Yeah, us too. Yeah, very much.
I personally also love the magazine, especially the number 3 is perfect for a third culture kid.
Yes.
And I think that's specifically from the book to the magazine, it definitely lured to this idea of like cultural intelligence for a lot of us. And you as a very global citizen in many ways, from your work to your person to your interests. My first question, I would love to ask you something about cultural intelligence, especially for our listeners and maybe for those who never heard of the term cultural intelligence. What does that actually look like in everyday life for you? And how would someone know they're practicing in it in the moment?
Yes. Thank you, Hoshin. It's really stemmed from my experiences growing up in different parts of the world, working with diverse environments, diverse folks in diverse environments. When I think about cultural intelligence, I don't just think about, ethnic culture. In our own organization, we have folks from their 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, and 20s, and all of whom in each decade, there's someone that's a decision maker. So thinking about, someone in their 70s and in their 20s in a boardroom, trying to battle in terms of which way we should go is can be very challenging. But I think coming back to your question, very important. And how do we figure out what that space looks like so that everyone has a chance to speak and be respected, but then come towards a common goal? A simpler example is when you see a new food in front of you, cultural intelligence to me is being curious about that food. I try to share this with my 9-year-old daughter, and my son is turning 7 tomorrow. Do we go, ew, look at that? Why is it looking like that? Or why did they do it that way? Right? That kind of foundational layer of curiosity, I think, is an important part of cultural intelligence.
Yeah,
we actually talk a lot about
curiosity. Yeah,
curiosity
and
is often what we talk about. Yes, I
Yeah.
feel like that is always the first step to bridge understanding to the unknown. Is that curiosity
Yes.
allows people to be able to understand. Yeah, always the first
Yes.
step.
Yeah. Yeah, because we all come with our biases and kind of the single-sided stories, if you will, about what a certain kind of food, if we want to go back to the food analogy, is. Because I tasted it and I don't like it, means maybe you should as well, rather than being, well, I didn't know until I tried it. We just kind of take everything as like, well, this is how it is, rather than asking, well, why is this how it is? And
Yes.
why is my reaction maybe more knee-jerking as opposed to more question seeking or trying to understand different perspectives?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think the other understand from my perspective is also like maybe I don't like it, but doesn't mean there's no value in it, right? Then must be even go back to the food, analogy that maybe I don't like this food, but maybe there's a way of preparing it. There's something that I can take away from the process of it. I can take something away from it for my own practice.
Yeah. I think it also helps when you have a trusted guide. My uncle, when I first went overseas, I was 21. I came from just recently graduating from university. I think my first stop was Malaysia on the way to Bangladesh. And my uncle was there. We were having a dinner, and he said, the key is he had went through this journey, I guess, decades ago. And he said, the key is you need to fall in love with a local. And
that's
and
lovely.
he,
Yeah.
and he said, so because you're going to experience these things, but from when you experience that from that person's perspective, they're showing you the beauty perspective, and you're getting it from someone who you appreciate, you admire, you love, and so it opens it up in a different way. The first time I had sushi is because I went on a date. I really liked this girl. I had never had sushi before. Then she was like, oh, I like this part, and oh, you're going to eat it with like sashimi with no rice, nothing, just the fish. Yes, and I tried it and I liked it, right? So
Right. Yeah.
I think having the right folks around you really is helpful to that as well.
Oh, I love that. I really love that. I think that is, I think having someone that you enjoy to do things with,
Yes.
and then they introduce you that new thing, it definitely make you open to it easier. I can see
Yes.
how that,
True.
is
The
easier to
trust.
take. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trust. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's true. And I think even in Canada, so when I first moved to Canada, I remember being told, oh, Canada's a mosaic. We are a patchwork of cultures. We are a salad, which was the inspiration for this podcast name.
Yes.
And I said, well, what do you mean? They're like, oh, well, we're just not like the States. We're not a melting pot. We don't make people assimilate. And of course, that's not the story of so many that come to Canada, because there is a lot of assimilation expected, despite the fact that we've got a Multiculturalism Act of 1988 and the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms that legally on paper says, no, multiculturalism, that's who we are. Putting it on paper and then putting it in practical application. And I feel the practical application, Canada still, as a very young country, if we will, quote unquote country, has still a long way to go. Where do you think, in the Canadian context, we get stuck between celebrating this multiculturalism and diversity and actually living it out? Is, in your perspective, I'm very curious. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you're making, Andrea. When I grew up in Winnipeg, I grew up there from the ages of 7 to 21. And that was, I think, 87 when I first got there. My aunt and uncle got there in the mid 70s. They had the Pan Am Games in Winnipeg. I don't know what that year that was, but sometime in the mid 70s. And they both came from Sri Lanka. and they met a Canadian family that had been there for a couple generations who was kind of their guides. And I brought up the example of me trying sushi for the first time. This Canadian family helped them connect to Canadian culture, but also that Canadian family was very curious about their Sri Lankan Tamil heritage. As a result of that experience, my aunt and uncle, when I was growing up with them and they had kids, we celebrated Diwali. My aunt wore saris to work. We also celebrated Thanksgiving. My aunt volunteered for Vote Canada, would knock on doors. She made us watch the Canadian political debates. She made us watch Brian Orser figure skating in the Winter Olympics. So it was this, she helped us understand that being Canadian, part of being Canadian was ensuring that your cultural upbringing or your perspective was it. And I think the key that we've missed now, especially for my generation, I'm 46 now, is that I very much took that for granted. I'll speak from my own personal experience. I took that for granted, that upbringing. My family's Hindu. I went to Catholic church, Catholic school. There were churches, there were temples, there was the library that you could go to, community centers, all these institutions that really were foundational in terms of the upbringing of our society. And as a newcomer or whoever, you could go to these places, or there was a family that would help guide you. And now that's missing for several reasons. One, I think my generation has taken it for granted. We are now responsible to lead those organizations, and we're not. That's a general statement, but I think it's true. Fareed Zakaria had a great talk with Matt Galloway recently on CBC, and he speaks about this lack of community. Now, where we used to go bowling together, we're connecting online. Where we used to like go to the local mechanic store to pick up a tool and have a conversation with someone, now it's this massive place, Home Depot, or you order something on Amazon. Like that connection of community is missing. And so, yes, government can bring in these policies to help with integration, but it comes down to each and every citizen looking at how are we connecting, because it's people connection at the end of the day. How are we showing, Canadian values and appreciating the culture that you're bringing and connecting the two?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, it ties back to how you were saying in the first question, having a person that you trust. I think there was a study with babies that they did a study where they would teach them English language through videos like Baby Einstein and things like that. And then they had another set of babies that were just taught English through their caretakers. And the babies who had excelled the most in language advancement were those who had learned from their caretakers only. There's something about connecting with one another and the impact that can have, and being that usher or being that kind of conduit of understanding. And to your point, I do think we've missed it because in our globalization, tech has also made that globalized world look very different than it was back in the 80s when the Multiculturalism Act was created, or back maybe when you were 8 years old and that Canadian family, like it became front and center a bit more. And now it's shifted, not in a good way. Unfortunately. Yeah.
I think that translates in the workplace as well. Sorry, Hoshin, just quickly.
Continue.
I think it translates in the workplace as well. And we try to emphasize this in our organization. We have some of my mid-level senior team has an expectation that this new person already has the skills and everything. Oh, I'm just going to give them the work. They're going to come back with, but it takes time, and you have to nurture that person and sometimes break down the stereotypes you've been bombarded with in your head. Biases. Yes. And so that takes time, that takes patience and an open mindset.
Yeah.
Sorry, Hoshin, you were going to share something.
Yeah, I would just want to add on the point that you mentioned one point about technology. I just want to add on that I read this article, which is still affect me a lot in terms of how I see online communities. Like as I would say I'm a newer generation in, here among us three. And of course, a lot of my communities, they usually start online, I have to say. I learn a lot of friends online. But this article was alluding to the fact that maybe on now, the online technology make the world seems easier to access and the world somehow smaller. But culture in many ways becomes this commodity in many ways and becomes this very generalized idea for everyone. You understand culture comes with many layers and nuances and when it comes to different people, they also have different interpretation. And so I just want to like add on that point. And I absolutely agree that like learning from communities is way more important than through a screen. To the point I just mentioned, the first question about cultural intelligence. I think having access to different communities that had from different cultures also help us with, the cultural intelligence that to nurture our cultural intelligence to navigate different cultural differences. And especially, I assume you have worked across like industries and communities and countries. When have you seen cultural intelligence make a real difference? Maybe in your personal life or work?
Yeah. Personally, I shared this story. Maybe Andrea, you heard this story in my talk at Conference Board of Canada, but it was such an impactful one. And it was in Bangladesh. I was dealing with the supplier, and I came in there thinking, hey, this is an elder person, a key supplier for us. And he offered me tea. I said no. I didn't drink tea at the time. He offered coffee. No. Would you just like some water or something? I said no. And in my head, I was like, here's an elder person. I need to not waste his time, get the deal done and leave him. And it was someone that did the deal with us for a long time. And he didn't send the shipment. It was a little bit of a challenge. I mean, eventually it worked, but the point was, business is about relationship first. Yeah. You have to spend the time and get to know someone. And, I think folks that are in the business community, or I was in my early 20s then and just in a rush to get things done. Perhaps someone more mature would have understood that. I didn't. And the importance of that interaction was a huge eye-opener for me later on as I came to negotiations. And in some, especially for me in Bangladesh, that was kind of a critical aspect of the conversation. You had to go through this process. Even though you wanted to just get to the point, that was part of the etiquette, I should say, of the process. And the other one is not speaking to someone eye to eye. And I had this person who just stood beside me and I kept like turning but he would just keep staying at the side. And again, thinking about what is the interaction, and what I would later reflect on more deeply is the power dynamics between my team member and myself as the business owner. Yeah. I went to my team and said, look, I'm not from Bangladesh. I don't understand the market. You guys are from here. Let's do a brainstorming session and let's hear your ideas, how we could market this product. And their response was, well, what do you think, sir? And I said, no, I need to hear from you. But they didn't want to, they were never given an opportunity, at least the team, those particular individuals, never had an opportunity to share their voice and share so it didn't compute for them. It took a really long time to build that. So one, that understanding was critical. Yeah. But later on, when I got their insights, recognizing how much of a value add and competitive advantage we had when we were launching those products.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, I think Hostion and I, all of us, have so many stories of these cultural dynamics where, you're like, whoop, I just put my big foot in my mouth. Or, I've been in places like India and Bangladesh as well, where, I couldn't have the milk and the tea. And so I'm trying to like subtly pass the tea to my friend so she can give me her empty cup and she can have my full cup. And I'm like, yes, thank you. You know what I mean? Like we've all been there. I love those two stories that you alluded to because I think that just one, it shows that we're all in this journey of learning and unlearning. Like no matter, like you might have a degree or certificate in cultural intelligence, but often that intelligence comes with community, comes with engaging with people. It comes with making those faux pas and these mistakes and discovering, oh, I guess, the power dynamics between me and my team, that makes sense why no one was putting forth their input because they're used to such a higher power distance hierarchy, right? Looking at Canada, because I think we've heard this. I mean, when I immigrated to Canada, Justin Trudeau, his whole platform was like diversity is our strength. And at the time, we had Trump's first election in the States. And I thought, who is this? A leader of a country saying diversity is our strength. Like, wow, way to go, Ken doll prime minister, because he always looks like a Ken doll to me. Anyway, whatevs. But I remember thinking, wow, yes, diversity is our strength. It is. And but I think if we're really honest, we look at the way in which Canada was formed. It wasn't formed on welcoming new cultures. It was formed on eradicating them. And so historically, we have this legacy where we want to welcome, but I think that the generations and the legacies of the, what was created initially, I think we still have a long way to go in kind of unraveling all those things and making true reconciliation. And I'm just wondering, in your experience, I know that in my experience as just someone who's been born and raised on Turtle Island, very Western mindset, how can we as Canadians maybe unlearn some of the things that we've learned? What do you think we need to let go in order to truly welcome other cultures and find ourselves? Because I find that immigrants and newcomers are always the ones adapting, changing, giving, sacrificing. And I don't know that a lot of Canadian-born people, maybe more Eurocentric descendants, are giving as much or unlearning as much or adjusting as much. How would you speak to that?
I think, well, we definitely try to do it in 3 Magazine. That is my, I guess, business way of doing it. Because for me, there is a huge value in what we have in Canada. And that is seen through the experiences of many of our Canadian diaspora working globally in global organizations. And the international community recognizing and appreciating how Canadians can respect different cultures and bring them towards a common goal. And to me, when many nations are challenged with this question of diversity, immigrants coming to their country, and the fear of losing their culture that they grew up with, Canada, we still have a long way to go, Andrea, I think, as you've highlighted in your point. But Canada is a leader in this, in terms of our multicultural thinking. And I think multiculturalism isn't about one culture that's dominating. It's multicultures. Right. I think we have a long way to go. I think policy is important. Those conversations are important. But coming back to your question, Andrea, how do we embrace that? I think it's the recognition that Canada is a leader of this globally. This is a problem that many countries are facing, and Canada can showcase itself as a leader in this by successful examples of our Canadian diaspora working in many different nations. I think by successful examples of navigating this tariff discussion and building more global trade. Again, that's an opportunity. How are we going to do that? We're going to only do that if we leverage our multicultural society by exploring these global markets, right? That's going to take real leadership, but the possibility is there for sure.
I mean, I see that like with many differences, like even in friend group, right? When you have many friends from different perspectives, no matter how close you are, there's always disagreements. There's always things that you cannot agree on. but I feel like part of it is just to like I feel like agreeing on in disagreement is such a huge important skill. Like I often see Andrea and me as example. We in many ways on paper we're very
We're
different.
so different.
We mentioned, yeah, we're so different.
So
Religious, we are. I mean, in religious, in religion understandings like sexuality, gender, identity, upbringing, many things we are very different, and a lot of sometimes we really disagree on certain things. But the thing is, I respect what you believe in, and and I know Andrew respect in what I believe in, even no matter how different they are. So I feel like part of the multiculturalism is also just the respect that we give to each other, no matter how different we are, how much disagreement we have. And I think that leads to also the another question that I have is about cultural tension. Like disagreement definitely will create tension, no matter how small or big it is, and it's just part of life. So what is your personal approach to these moments when perspectives clash or misunderstanding, like in workplace or in your own personal life?
I'll leave my personal life out of it because my wife will probably kill me. No.
Your wife listens to your speaking. My husband does not. So
My wife and I
woman.
are very different as well. So when you guys were talking about this, I was thinking about Dasha and I's relationship. We just celebrated 10 years of marriage on Saturday. So we've been
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A decade.
A decade. Yeah.
Yes.
Ocean, I don't know if I have an answer to this, but I'd like to share a story. And that is in Italy, where they make Parmesan cheese. It was a dying industry because the next generation didn't want to continue with the production of Parmesan cheese in Italy. And what happened was Sikh Punjabis that migrated to Italy that were from the farming community started learning how to produce Parmesan cheese. And now 95% of Parmesan cheese produced in Italy is from the Sikh Punjabi community.
Oh, wow. Did
Yeah,
not know that.
yeah, it's pretty wild.
It's pretty wild.
So why I say I don't have the answer yet is how do we feel about that when we hear it? Like one perspective is, hey, this was an Italian industry in Italy producing this cheese, and now some other cultural community is doing it. But also economically, this was a major revenue generator for that region and for Italy. And they were challenged on who's going to continue on with this. And now they have people that are doing that in their traditional methods, right? But back to your question, I personally, whether it's in my company or within my organization, I look for those universal connectors. If it's in the business, okay, hey, we need a good quality product that our customers are going to appreciate. I respect your opinion. I respect your opinion. This is the kind of underlying focus, the driver for us, right? I think there's universal connectors in food. We want the food to taste good
Oh, yeah.
at the end of the day. Universal connectors in terms of music, sports. The Blue Jays were in the World Series recently.
Yes.
But I go back to these universal connectors, fundamentals. And
it reminds me of there's always this question. It's kind of like, well, what is Canadian? There's always this, and Hoshin and I have seen it. I mean, if you go to our TikTok, we've got some pretty intense people that like to really be anti anyone who's not, straight white male, which, okay, whatever. But there's this overarching, like, well, they're not Canadian. And then, when you think about even this story about, the Punjabi community creating Parmesan Italian cheese, it really comes down to, like, we're all a part of this human race. We're all citizens of really the globe. Like we are, yes, our passports say Canada. Yes, I speak this language, and not to devalue that by any means, but also to say there's more that unites us than divides us. And those common core values is like, well, I'm a human. I feel, I bleed red. I cry when I'm sad. I get mad when injustice happens. And you do too in another part of the world. And I would hope, and this is kind of the dream behind Canadian Salad too, is just to normalize, like, we're all trying to navigate cultures together. We're all trying to understand how people work. We're all trying to build lives and communities in Canada. We're not threats, but we might sound or look or smell different, but what forest has all the same trees and that's it? What part of the ocean just only has one type of sea life? Their diversity, as much as it is our strength, diversity is it. If you want to embrace other people, or because you embrace so much that's already different around you, why is embracing other people who are different a big ask?
Culturally,
like culturally, like it just should, like that should be our default rather than the exception. And so, that's just my two thoughts on what you were sharing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Andrea, and I definitely connect with what you're saying. I think, folks are motivated by desire or by fear.
Yeah.
And I think the community of folks that you're speaking about, I think they're really coming from a place of fear, whereby they don't see the opportunities in front of, they're not excited about what's ahead. I think they feel like they're being left out and pushed forward. And, we do a lot of work at Computech. We're in the GTA at Computech College, and there's a lot of support for people of color, newcomers, and that's our focus at the college. Doesn't mean we don't have students from all different backgrounds, but we know that space. Our team is built around that, and we do a lot of great work there. But when we think about rural areas in Ontario, since we're in Ontario, there is not enough support. And in some places, like, I didn't even know this till I came back, they didn't have a proper internet access. And so if you're talking about these exciting things in IT, AI, but you don't have internet access, you feel like you're left out. If you're talking about, hey, there's this funding for women of color for their startup, but you're in rural Ontario, you feel left out. And I don't want them to be left out. I want everyone to come together, right? That, again, is part of multicultural Canada. So I think, where is the conversation where we're bringing these folks along?
Yeah.
I think, to your point about Canadian values, it is that multicultural concept. It is First Nations community, French Canada, everybody. And I think we really need to get back on that focus. It is a multicultural mosaic. That means every culture should be represented.
No,
Absolutely
I
agree.
agree.
I agree. And I think that is also a great topic for us to kind of end on in this episode, the multiculturalism of Canada. So my last question that I want to ask you is, what gives you optimism about where Canada is heading in this bigger cultural story, in this multicultural mosaic that we kind of stand on?
Yeah, I'm extremely hopeful. I mean, actions speak louder than words. My entire investments, my business is focused on this multicultural focus in terms of education, in terms of the magazine. We believe, Hoshin and Andrea, there are a lot of global challenges. It is going to take global thinkers to address those global challenges. Of course, third culture thinking is included in that. And who are the leaders of that type of thinking? A multicultural nation like Canada, not only in terms of the diversity of its people, but the policies like the Multicultural Act that we have in Canada. Again, we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
It is going to take leadership to step up, generations to take up that mantle and have the conversations that are needed, bring the people together. That's going to take patience. That's going to take work. But we have the ingredients in the salad for a very delicious.
Good job.
Thank you.
You're one of us now. No, I'm just kidding.
So I am very hopeful. I think it's going to take work, but I am very hopeful. And I think going back to food, we have here in Toronto Japanese, Peruvian food, Jamaican Chinese, and to me it's like this generations of kids that have grown up in different cultures and are merging these things. Someone said to me a few years ago, in terms of gay rights, that there was so much of this fight, for so many years, and people kept fighting. And then all of a sudden there was this generation that grew up with it, and they were just like, why are we fighting about that? Like, of course, this should happen, right? Look, there's still ways we have to go there, but it is a generation that grew up in an environment where they're like, why is this even a debate? And I think the same thing is going to happen in terms of the multiculturalism and where Canada is today. It is a very polarized world we live in today. Again, Canada is a leader, but I'm very hopeful that this is a transition period that Canada is going to come out strong.
I love that. I love that. I do hope that, maybe the next generation or the next generation that grew up in an environment to just put like multiculturalism as a default. That would be such a dream.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that there's been a lot of headway made as far as like with the Multiculturalism Act. And I do feel like there's going to be resistance. And my hope is that this is a point in time where people are resisting, maybe older generations or people who just don't understand and have like fearful mindsets. And I think if we're consistent and if we keep championing people and keep amplifying people like yourself, Muraly, Hostion, other leaders, the doctor from Nigeria that just landed in a clinic down the street, like everyone is a leader in their own right. And if we keep amplifying them and supporting them, I do feel like there is a greater hope because there's so much joy in this. There's so much life when you have not just a multicultural mosaic, but that you can experience it and experience the beauty. Yeah. This discussion has been so fun. Muraly, I'm just very, very thankful for you being here. So thank you for honestly providing all that perspective and insight. We end every episode with a Canadian salad pop quiz.
Right.
Pop quiz. Now, this quiz is a question related to our topic. Hostion doesn't know my question. I don't know his question. You don't know our questions. This is the drama T for the Canadian salad D. Hostion, do you want to go first with your question or do you want me to go first?
I can go first. I don't mind. Okay. My question is, how many ethnic or cultures of origin in Canada based on a 2021 Canadian census?
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. Okay.
This is it's just a guess.
I know. Thought. Okay.
Yeah, usually that's our question.
We won't withhold the gold stars. Yeah, you can still get one.
150.
150. Okay. Andrea, what about you?
This is my question too. So I know the answer.
That's your question.
I'm not. Well, I do have like a little twist on. So that's okay. I won't answer. So do you want to? Okay. Do you want to go ahead and share the answer for our listeners?
Yeah. The answer is over 450.
450? Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I should have said 369. Okay.
There you go. Oh yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yes. Okay. So my question, very similar. So 5 years prior to that, how many ethnic origins or ancestries were reported in the Canadian population? So what was it before it was 450?
Oh, I mean, it's got to be close, I think, right?
I mean, I know the answer. So.
You're on the hot spot. Sorry.
I don't know. 445? I can't imagine.
445.
Yeah.
So the actual answer is 250. So within 5 years,
Are you kidding me?
inherited
Yeah,
200 more
200.
different ethnic. And this part of that could be just the way that Stats Canada changed the survey so
Yes.
that more options could be documented. But only 250 were reported at the time of 2016. 5 years
Yeah.
later, we had over 450. So. And
that's
that
interesting.
that includes First Nations. So that, and I think there are over 600 First Nations in all of Canada, but cultural representation. So I think it's good to know that number, because sometimes we think maybe, it's just all the French or all these Americans coming over, you know what I mean? But there's a lot of different ethnic origins that are here, and that's what makes an incredibly beautiful and tasty salad. So good job. You tried.
Yeah, I mean the French and the British is still the most common, but there's many other. And you're right. Actually, look into it. There was the reason for the increased part of it is also because Canada is like more understanding of how the ethnic
Documented.
breakdowns. Yeah, documented. So in general, this also, but it's also a sign of Canada and the government at least understanding more of how ethnic groups are different, how they're different from each other and how the breakdown should be. So it's another sign of progress as well.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yes, we like to stay informed and know history. So all of our episodes end with a Canadian style pop quiz. So we're always learning stuff. But before we end, Muraly, I would love to hear if you could describe yourself as an element of the grand old Canadian salad, what ingredient would you be?
I think I would like to be a fruit,
Ooh, okay.
A fruit.
and I would choose blueberry.
Okay.
Ooh.
Do tell.
Not a very common, ingredient
No?
for a salad, I
Okay.
would say.
But that's okay.
I like that,
That's
but
your
it's okay.
that's your
Yeah.
be a
Be unique. Yeah, be a blueberry.
Yeah, some people think that having fruit in a salad is like it's controversial.
Yes.
So, so I like that.
Yeah.
And
Controversial.
I like blueberries. I like the color blue. It's a great fruit, good for you, antitoxins.
Do you know that's the only fruit that's blue?
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
Blueberry is the
That's-
only fruit that's
it?
blue. Yeah.
Do you have a link for that, Hoshin?
Yes.
You know we don't
Absolutely.
just make stuff up on this podcast. I need a source, data. Give it.
I never make things up. Blueberry is the only fruit that is blue. I absolutely sure of
amazing.
that.
Okay.
I've learned
okay.
so much on this podcast. This is awesome. Okay.
Thank you. Where can people find you? Do you want to share? Do you have socials? Do you have a website? Is there a specific thing maybe you want to point people towards?
Yeah, I think MuralyS.com is my website. Most things are there, but always happy to connect with folks on LinkedIn. Yeah. And
Great.
check out the magazine, please.
Yes.
Free magazine.
Yeah, 3.
Yes, we will. We will include the link in our show notes. Honestly, it's so beautiful. I feel like it's like the Vogue magazine for culture. It is just
Thank you.
the pictures are beautiful. They really, really are. So if
The
you're
content too.
Yeah, the content
you.
too. Exactly.
Thank you.
So yes, if you enjoyed this episode, please do leave us a review. Let us know what you think. You can email us hello@canadiansalad.ca. You'll find all these links to Muraly's website, the magazine, the book, some of the sources that we quoted today, the blueberry stat that I'm hoping that Hoshin gives on our website. Our website is canadiansalad.ca, and you can find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Yay, I did it. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you again next week.
Yeah, talk to you again next week. Bye.
Okay. Canadian Salad is written and produced in British Columbia, Canada by Hoshin Ho and Andrea McCoy. Theme music is by Naver Avetyan from Pixabay.
This has been a good Dranklin production.